What up, YouTube? My name's Fred, and I'm going to talk to you about why I'm going MGTOW. That is, I'm a man going his own way. My reasons are few and far between. I've recently got out of a bad breakup. It was a very traumatizing experience, albeit, granted, it was my first experience with a relationship and a long-term relationship, and there are many pros and cons, and I learned a lot of myself during the relationship and especially towards the end of it. So my story is that I got into this relationship very early on when we first met, and oxytocin and dopamine highs just every freaking day thinking about that person. Um, and it would only last so long as the months progressed, where we start having fights here and there. They would start to escalate, and towards the tail end of the relationship, um, it started to bomb. What I mean by that is it exploded, and we both were, by the end of it, felt very dissatisfied with who we became as a result of compromising with the other person. And I learned a very valuable lesson, as that as a man, you have to be strong emotionally, so that in order to support the relationship, you have to be there as a pillar of strength for her as well, and not to succumb to your own selfish desires and how you feel. Because, yeah, albeit granted, you have to be compromising and understanding in a relationship in order for it to work. For my case, I was none of that. Um, I was very jaded at the start, and going into the relationship, that's never ever a good thing. If you want to get into a very supportive relationship, you have to to be coming from a place of giving, not taking, and that's what I did when I was in that relationship with that person. And the very dynamic of the someone that you're with giving more than to you than you are to them, it's a very bad precedent. It sets a very bad one. And she invested a lot more than I did, and that's a red flag if you're not putting as much effort into the relationship as that other person. I mean, just talking to in general guys and girls. But as a man, um, it's it's easier to get a girl when you don't care as much because you're indifferent and you're more aloof. But when you start to see the person put in more effort and time and starts investing into you emotionally, and you see that happening in front of you, you tend to, like their persistence, especially if you're also attracted back to them. In my case, she was my first relationship, and I was very jaded, like I said, and I wasn't even sure if I wanted to be in a relationship with her because I was, pretty good in life. I was at a pretty good stage in my life at that time. I got into a 4-year university after like a year or two of hard work getting into it, um, working at school, and to be able to be accepted. But when she came into my life, um, at the very start of that, from the community college that I met her at, I felt that I was going places, and I was very ambitious, and I knew no bounds. I was limitless, and in the end, that hubris brought me down. Um, I got knocked off my high horse, so to speak, and it was a tragic tale of woe where you know there's one dream that you have and you're striving and trying to attain that goal, and then somebody um, offers you something that you can't find anywhere else, even from your dream, which is love. And I I fell for it. I fell for her, and as a person who is very ambitious and has life goals, you have to stay on track because that person that's offering you that love is going to distract you and detract you from your mission in life. And I had a mission in life, but I allowed myself to be distracted. And so it was very detrimental to my emotional health and my professional life because when you want to be with that one person, you want to spend more time with them and so you want to see them all the time, especially if it's a long distance relationship. And I learned that the hard way, where I started seeing my time being more and more controlled and more directed towards that relationship rather than myself. And that resentment of not being able to have your own time for yourself when somebody else demands it uh, started building up. And I realized that was my fault. That resentment started to build up because I started blaming her for my choices that I could have made better. And I don't blame her for it anymore as much as I used to. I was very angry with her every time her wish to see me more and more often started to take a toll on my own self-interests, and hence my ambitions was dampened. What you got to do is you have to say no, and you have to remember and remind yourself of your mission in life and your goal. And it's really hard to do that when you're in love. Uh, when you're in that mode where you just want to concentrate and focus on that other person, you rationalize that to yourself that you're doing it because you care about this person and you miss them and you love them and you want to spend your time with them so that they don't feel bad. But when you're in a relationship, you can't there is no I or me anymore. There's you and her. You and her become us, and you become an item, so to speak, where you're always together, you do everything together, you talk together about everything. They become your best friend. And that's really something that I should have taken more into account. And I knew better. I knew better that if I got into a relationship, I was going to be more involved with this person more than I should have, especially in the beginning, like more, like 1 month or 2 months of knowing this person and getting to know them. So over time, the resentment piled up and piled up and piled up, and where it became little signs here and there where the relationship started to get rocky. Um, it was my first relationship, being spent so devoted to one person when I was only just devoted to myself. I was very ambitious and I wanted to get into medical school. But seeing as my time was being more invested into the other person, into my ex, she became more of a burden to me, and I started seeing her as a burden. And when you're in a relationship where you're supposed to care for one another, an ideal relationship, you're supposed to think about that person too. And all I really did was care about myself. And I saw how shallow and how how horrible I was, as a person to somebody who really did care about me. I was angry. I yelled a lot. Um, I withdrew affection. I was just very emotionally abusive to her because I wasn't getting my way. Um, when all she did was just try to understand me and give me love. And her investment wasn't paying off, so she started to be more distant, and especially with what I did. Um, because I was so dissatisfied with the relationship at like 6, 8 months in, we we had a lot of fights, few and far between, and that's pretty early for being in a relationship. So that's a red flag for not being in the right relationship, even though you want it to work. But because of my hubris, I thought I could do better. And when I met another girl who was fit more my type, my ideal, whereas my girlfriend at the time, um, maybe I just was with her just because she was there and she was willing, and that's also very wrong. You should be in a relationship not just for the sake of the convenience of it. So that's why I questioned to myself, like, was I really in love with her if I could just, find somebody else attractive so easily? And I ended up trying to do the right thing and breaking up with her to save myself and herself the time and pain of the breakup. But in the end, uh, I pursued the other girl, and it turned out she had a boyfriend already, and that made me feel like shit about myself, and it questioned everything that I ever knew about myself and who I thought I was. My self-image was very convoluted, and this the moral of the story is you never know what you have until it's gone. And my tale is a tale of redemption. Because ever since then, I was never the same after she cheated on me because I feel like I deserved it. Because in a way, cheated on her. I betrayed her, first and foremost. So for a whole year after the breakup, since it's a pretty recent story, especially since now that I'm pretty open about talking about it, she, I hope she's happy now, especially after all that's happened. I was, in a state of suspense. I was depressed every single day for a whole year because of what I did and what happened with her after I broke up with her when she chose somebody else, and I practically killed the person that I loved with my own bare hands, and that's something that I have to live with. That I have to live with now. So going your own way, we all have our own reasons, and that's just one of mine. Where I want to find my ideal. You know, I don't want to have to hurt somebody else in order to, fulfill my own selfish goals and my own selfish ambitions and my desires. You have to choose between lust and love. And when I realized it, our love was based off of lust.